Welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to try to tackle this topic that's, I'm sure, going to get some people heated up.
Hmm.
We're talking about HVAC systems, specifically in Northern California.
Yeah.
Whether you're, you know, just starting to learn about this stuff for the first time or you're a seasoned homeowner, I think this deep dive that we're going to do today
Right.
should equip you to navigate those decisions about replacing your system.
Yeah.
It's always sometimes steamy and sometimes freezing here in Northern California.
Yeah, definitely.
So our source material today is an article called How Much an HVAC Replacement Costs in Northern California, Your Ultimate Guide.
Okay.
It's written by an HVAC contractor who has over 35 years of experience.
Wow. That's a lot of experience.
So he definitely knows his stuff.
Yeah.
So I think for today, what we really want to do in this deep dive is help you guys, our listeners, really understand the costs involved in replacing an HVAC system,
Right.
all those factors that contribute to those costs,
Yeah.
and some of the things that you might not know. For example, did you know there are rebates and incentives out there that could potentially save you a ton of money?
Interesting.
Or that you might not need to replace your entire system in some cases.
Right. Right. I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because this connects to California's bigger push for energy efficiency and sustainability.
Right.
So I think it's interesting to kind of see how those two things go together.
Yeah.
So, okay, to map out our journey today, first we're going to kind of uncover the why behind replacing your HVAC system.
Okay.
Why would you even want to do that?
Right.
Then we'll look at the costs, break those down. We'll explore different types of systems that are out there.
Right.
And we'll even look at some tips for saving money and just kind of making the whole process smoother.
That sounds great. I'm ready to dive in.
Buckle up, everybody.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it. Why even replace your system in the first place?
Right. Good question.
I mean, if it's not broken, why fix it? Right?
Hmm.
But our expert in the article highlights a couple of really important reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, he starts off by talking about the inefficiency of older systems.
Right.
And that makes sense. I mean, as things age, they just don't work as well.
Yeah.
Cars, appliances, and even HVAC systems.
Right. I've definitely noticed that with my old system. It just doesn't seem to cool as well as it used to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so then that leads to higher energy bills.
Makes sense.
And nobody wants that.
Mm.
I know I've definitely been there. I've seen those huge energy bills, and it's not fun.
No, definitely not.
And on top of those high energy bills, he also talks about how these older systems tend to require more frequent repairs,
Ah.
which again can be really costly.
Yeah. And who wants to deal with the hassle of constant repairs, right? You're always calling someone to come out. You have to wait for them to show up. It disrupts your day. It's a pain.
Yeah, for sure. And he actually makes a really good point about how those repair costs can really add up over time.
Mhm.
So even though it might seem cheaper to just keep patching up that old system, in the long run, a replacement might actually save you money.
That's a good point. It's like that saying, penny wise and pound foolish. Sometimes it's better to invest in a long-term solution.
Yeah, exactly. And, on top of those high energy bills and repair costs, let's not forget about the actual comfort factor.
Right, of course.
A new system is going to be much better at maintaining a consistent, comfortable temperature throughout your house.
Yeah, that's a big one. There's nothing worse than feeling too hot or too cold in your own home. You want to be comfortable.
Exactly. And I think that's especially important here in Northern California where we have kind of these extreme temperatures.
Yeah, we get those hot summers and those cold winters, so
Yeah.
having a reliable HVAC system is essential.
Right. I actually had a furnace breakdown in the middle of winter one time.
Oh, no.
And let me tell you, it was a nightmare.
I bet it was. That's one of my biggest fears. I can only imagine how uncomfortable it was.
Oh, it's awful. But okay, so on top of all of those reasons, comfort, cost savings, there's one more thing that I think is particularly relevant here in California.
Interesting.
Our expert points out that a new system can also help align your home with the state's green initiatives.
Ah, right, sustainability. That's a big focus here in California.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually reduce your carbon footprint and enjoy a more comfortable living space at the same time.
I like the sound of that. It's a win-win situation.
Right. So before we go any further, I actually have a question.
Okay.
I've always wondered about those efficiency ratings.
Right.
I know they're important, but I'm not really sure what they mean in terms of actual energy savings.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people get confused about those ratings.
Yeah, could you break it down for us?
Sure. So we're talking about the SEER rating. That stands for Seasonal Energy Efficiency Ratio. Yeah, SEER. And it's basically a measure of how efficiently your system uses energy to cool your home. Think of it like miles per gallon for your car.
Yeah.
A higher MPG means you can travel further on a gallon of gas, right?
Right.
Well, a higher SEER rating means you'll get more cooling power for each unit of electricity used.
Ah, I see. So it's all about getting the most bang for your buck energy-wise.
Exactly. And the higher the SEER rating, the more energy efficient your system is, and the lower your energy bills will be.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's a big one to keep in mind. But now I think we need to address the part that can feel a bit daunting for a lot of people.
What's that?
The actual cost of replacing your HVAC system.
Right, yeah. That can definitely be a big concern for homeowners. It's a significant investment.
Right. And it can feel really overwhelming.
Yeah. There are so many factors that can affect the final price tag, it can be hard to even know where to start.
The article actually breaks down all those different factors that can affect the cost.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we're going to unpack all of that together, step by step.
That sounds good. I'm ready to break it down.
But before we get into those details, let's just start with the first big decision you'll have to make.
Okay.
And that's the type of system.
Right, the type of system. That's a biggie.
Yeah, this is kind of like choosing a car.
Okay.
You wouldn't buy a sports car if you needed to haul a lot of cargo, right?
Right. Different cars for different needs.
Yeah. And same goes for HVAC systems. There are different types of systems out there,
Yeah.
each with their own pros and cons.
Right.
And, of course, their own price range.
Okay, so what are those different types? I'm curious to hear more about this.
Well, there are three main categories that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
We've got the central air conditioners.
Right.
We've got ductless mini splits.
Okay.
And then we've got heat pumps.
Got it.
So let's start with those central air conditioners.
Okay.
Those are kind of like the workhorses of the HVAC world, right?
Yeah, I've heard of those. They're pretty common.
Yeah. They've been around for decades.
Yeah.
They offer really powerful, consistent cooling for an entire house.
Okay.
And they do this using a network of ducts.
Right, the ducts. Those are the metal tubes that run through your walls and ceilings. Right?
That's right. So the air conditioner cools the air, and then the blower motor pushes that cool air through those ducts
Okay.
and into the different rooms in your house.
So if you have a larger house or an open floor plan, central air might be the way to go, right?
Yeah, they're really good for larger spaces.
Okay, makes sense. What about those ductless mini splits? I've heard those are becoming more popular, but I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, they're gaining popularity.
Yeah.
And there's a good reason for that. They're actually super efficient,
Okay.
and they're really flexible. You can think of them kind of like the ninjas of the HVAC world, right?
Ninjas.
Yeah.
Interesting analogy. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, they're sleek, they're
Yeah.
flexible,
Okay.
and they're very energy efficient.
Okay, so I'm guessing they don't use ducts, right? Since they're ductless.
Yeah, they're ductless.
Ah, okay. So how do they work then? If there are no ducts to distribute the air?
Well, with ductless mini splits, you actually install individual units in specific rooms or zones.
Oh, I see. So each room has its own little unit.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. So you could control the temperature in each room individually.
exactly.
That's amazing. No more fighting over the thermostat.
Right.
So they sound like a great option for homes that don't have existing ductwork, right?
Yeah,
Because you wouldn't have to go through the hassle and expense of installing all those ducts.
exactly. So they're a really popular choice for older homes that maybe weren't built with central air.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about central air and ductless mini splits. What about those heat pumps?
Okay, heat pumps. They are the multitaskers of the HVAC world.
Multitaskers.
They can do both.
Oh, right. I've heard of these. They can both heat and EDU cool. Right.
Exactly. They can do both heating and cooling. And they do it by transferring heat from one place to another.
Okay, so how does that work? How can they both heat and cool?
So in the winter, they'll pull heat from the outside air, even when it's cold,
Wow.
and bring it inside to warm your house.
Even when it's cold outside, I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. And then in the summer, they reverse the process. They pull the heat out of your house and release it outside.
Oh, I see. So they're kind of like a two-way street for heat.
Yeah, exactly. They can move heat in either direction.
That's super efficient. No wonder they're becoming more popular.
Yeah. And they're especially popular here in California because our climate is relatively mild.
Right. We don't get those super extreme temperatures like some other parts of the country.
Yeah, so heat pumps are a great way to stay comfortable year-round.
Okay, so we've got those three main types. Central air, ductless mini splits, and heat pumps, each with their own unique features and benefits. But what about the cost?
Okay, so cost.
Yeah, let's talk numbers.
That's the big question, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much is all of this going to cost
Well,
me?
exactly.
And the article actually breaks down all the factors that can affect the price.
Okay, so what are those factors? I'm all ears.
Well, the first thing we need to consider is the size of the system.
Right, the size. That makes sense. A bigger house is going to need a bigger system.
Right. It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
But there's a nuance here that our expert emphasizes, and that's right sizing.
Right sizing. What does that mean? Is it like finding the right size shoes?
Kind of. It's about finding that Goldilocks zone for your HVAC system.
Mm-hmm.
Not too big,
Okay.
not too small,
Okay.
but just right for your home's specific needs.
So it's about getting a system that's perfectly matched to your home's size and heating and cooling requirements.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Imagine trying to power a massive truck with a tiny little motorcycle engine.
Hmm.
It just wouldn't work very well, right?
No, that wouldn't be very efficient.
Yeah. And the same goes for HVAC systems. If you get a system that's too small for your house, it's going to have to work extra hard to try to keep up.
Right. It'll be running constantly, trying to keep up with the demand.
And that can lead to higher energy bills.
Makes sense. And I bet it would wear out faster, too.
Exactly. And then on the flip side, if you get a system that's too big for your house,
Yeah. Okay.
it's going to cycle on and off really frequently, which again wastes energy and can actually shorten the lifespan of the system.
So right sizing is all about finding that sweet spot. A system that's just the right size for your home so it runs efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so size is important. What's next? What else affects the cost?
Okay, well, next we have the brand and the efficiency rating.
Brand and efficiency rating. Okay, so I guess it's like with any other appliance, you have different brands to choose from, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you want to go with reputable manufacturers that are known for quality and reliability.
Right, makes sense. You don't want to buy something that's going to break down quickly.
Exactly. But I think the real key here is that efficiency rating.
Ah, okay. The efficiency rating. So we're talking about that SEER rating again, right?
And that's where things get really interesting, especially if you're looking to save money in the long run.
Oh, I love saving money. Tell me more.
Well, a higher upfront cost for a high SEER system can actually translate to significant savings on your energy bills over time.
So it's like an investment.
Yeah.
You pay more up front, but you save more in the long run.
Exactly. It's all about looking at the bigger picture.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the type of system, the size, the brand, the efficiency rating. What else do we need to consider?
Well, then there's the actual installation itself.
Right, the installation. That's going to be
Right.
a big part of the cost, right?
Yeah, and this is where things can get a little tricky.
Okay, how so?
Well, if your system requires a lot of modifications to your existing ductwork,
The ductwork again.
those costs can really add up.
So it's not just the cost of the equipment itself, it's also the cost of the labor and any necessary modifications to the ductwork.
Exactly. And sometimes those ductwork modifications can be pretty extensive, especially if you have an older home with a more complex duct system.
Okay, so it's important to factor in those potential costs as well.
Right. And then there are those extras that people might not always think
Deal
about.
breakers. Like what?
Things like smart thermostats.
Ah, smart thermostats. Those are pretty cool. I have one in my house, and I love it. It helps me save a lot of energy.
Yeah, they're great.
And they're becoming more and more common.
Right. And then there are air purifiers as well.
Air purifiers. Those are good for people with allergies, right?
Yeah, they can really help improve your indoor air quality. So those extras can also add to the overall cost.
Okay, so we've got the system itself, the installation, any ductwork modifications, and then any extras that we might want to add.
Right. And then, of course, we have to factor in the regional pricing differences.
Regional pricing differences. What does that mean?
Well, it's not a secret that costs can vary depending on where you live. And our expert in the article points out that Northern California, with its higher cost of living,
Yeah.
might have slightly higher labor rates.
Okay.
And there might also be unique building codes that can impact installation costs.
So location plays a role too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's really important to get quotes from local contractors
Why?
who are familiar with the ins and outs of working in Northern California.
Got it.
So hopefully now you're starting to get a clearer picture of all the things that can affect the cost of replacing an HVAC system.
Yeah, definitely. It's more complex than I thought, but it's good to know all those different factors.
Right. It can feel overwhelming, but once you break it down, it's not so bad.
Yeah, I'm feeling more confident already.
Great. So now that we have a better understanding of those costs, I think we're ready to move on to the exciting part.
Oh, okay. What's the exciting part?
Exploring the different system types and their price ranges in more detail.
Okay, sounds good. I'm ready to hear about the specifics. Let's dive in.
All right. Let's start with those central air conditioners, the tried and true systems that have been keeping homes cool for decades.
Okay, central air.
Let's see what they're all about.
Okay, so central air. What kind of price range are we looking at for replacing one of these systems?
Well, our contractor's guide says that replacing a central air system in Northern California
Mm-hmm.
could cost you anywhere from $3,000
Okay.
to $7,000.
Yeah.
But of course, that's just a range.
Right.
And the actual price can go up or down from there,
Yeah.
depending on the specifics of the system you need.
Right, like the size and the efficiency rating and all that stuff we talked about before.
Exactly. So it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all situation.
No, definitely not. It's really important to get a system that's the right fit for your home and your specific needs. Like we said before, central air is a great choice for larger spaces or open floor plans
Yeah.
because it provides that powerful, consistent cooling.
Right. But if you have a smaller home or you're on a tighter budget, there might be some more cost-effective options out there.
Okay, so what about those ductless mini splits? I'm still curious about those. What kind of price range are we looking at for them?
Yeah, so for ductless mini splits, the typical cost to replace a system is between $2,000
Okay.
and $8,000.
Okay.
So a little bit of a wider range there.
Yeah.
But remember, with these systems, you don't need those ducts.
Right. That's a big advantage for some homes.
So you can install those individual units in specific rooms or zones,
Okay.
and that targeted approach can actually lead to some pretty big energy savings.
Ah, that's interesting. So you're not wasting energy cooling rooms that you're not using.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
And you can also customize the temperature in different areas to suit everyone's preferences.
Oh, that's great. So no more thermostat wars.
No more thermostat wars. Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Okay, so now let's talk about heat pumps. What's the typical cost to replace a heat pump system?
So the guide suggests that replacing a heat pump system will usually cost you somewhere between $4,000
Okay.
and $10,000.
All right, so those are kind of the priciest options, it sounds like.
They can be. But remember, they're also incredibly efficient,
Right.
especially in milder climates like ours here in Northern California.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. They can really make a difference in your energy bills.
Right. They can help you save a lot of money on those energy bills in the long run.
Okay, so we've looked at the typical price ranges for each of these system types, but let's be real here. Replacing an HVAC system can be a pretty big investment.
Yeah, for sure.
So our listeners are probably wondering how they can save some money during this process.
Yeah, and luckily, our expert contractor has some great tips for that. He actually specifically mentions California's awesome programs for energy efficiency upgrades.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that. I'm always interested in saving money and being more energy efficient.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
So California is actually a leader in promoting energy-efficient solutions.
That's great to hear.
And they offer a bunch of different state programs, like incentives from the California Energy Commission, as well as utility company rebates.
Rebates and incentives. So those can help offset the cost of upgrading to a more energy efficient system.
Exactly. It's like getting a bonus for making a smart choice for your home and the environment.
I like that. But is there a catch? I mean, it sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, there is a little bit of a catch. Not all systems are going to qualify for these incentives.
Right. Makes sense. It has to be a really energy efficient system, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And the programs themselves can change over time. So it's important to do your research and make sure you're getting the most up-to-date information.
Okay, so do your research, check the eligibility requirements, and stay up to date on the latest programs.
Got it.
What other money-saving tips does he have?
Well, another big one he emphasizes is finding a reputable contractor, A&D, getting multiple quotes.
Multiple quotes, okay. So it's like shopping around, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's like buying a car. You wouldn't just go to one dealership and buy the first car you see, right?
Right, you'd want to compare prices and features from different dealerships.
Exactly. And the same goes for HVAC contractors. Getting multiple quotes allows you to compare prices, but also services, warranties,
Right.
and even personalities. Because you want to find a contractor that you feel comfortable working with.
That's a good point. It's a big project, so you want to make sure you have a good relationship with the contractor.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about rebates and incentives and getting multiple quotes. What else?
Well, he also mentioned something that's often overlooked, but can save you a lot of money down the line.
Interesting. What's that?
Regular maintenance.
Oh, right. Regular maintenance. That's important for any appliance, I guess.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm guilty of neglecting maintenance sometimes.
Yeah, me too. It's easy to forget about it when everything seems to be working fine. Out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah. But he actually compares it to taking your car in for an oil change. You do it to prevent small problems from becoming big, expensive problems later on.
That's a good analogy.
And it's the same with your HVAC system. Regular maintenance can help prevent those major breakdowns,
Right.
which can save you a ton of money in the long run.
Okay, so what does regular maintenance involve? I'm not really sure what that entails for an HVAC system.
Well, it's things like changing air filters,
Okay.
cleaning the coils,
Right.
and just making sure everything's running smoothly.
Okay, so those are things that a homeowner can do themselves, or do you need to call a professional?
Well, some things you can definitely do yourself, like
Yeah.
changing the air filter.
Okay.
That's a pretty easy one. But for other things, like cleaning the coils,
Yeah.
it's probably best to call in a professional. They have the tools and the expertise to do it properly.
Right. Makes sense. It's like with car maintenance, some things you can do yourself, but for the more complex stuff, it's better to take it to a mechanic.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, so regular maintenance is important. Got it. What about financing? I mean, we've established that replacing an HVAC system can be a significant investment.
Yeah.
So what options are out there for people who might not have a big chunk of cash on hand to pay for it all at once?
Well, the article covers a few different options. Loans are a pretty common choice.
Okay, loans. Those can be helpful.
They offer fixed interest rates and predictable monthly payments.
Right, so you know exactly what you'll be paying each month. That can be helpful for budgeting.
Exactly. And then there are those 0% APR credit card offers
Yeah.
that you see advertised sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Those sound tempting.
Yeah, but you have to be careful with those
Yeah.
because those interest rates can really skyrocket if you don't pay off the balance within that promotional period.
Right, so you have to be disciplined and make sure you can pay it off before the interest kicks in.
Yeah, for sure. And then some HVAC manufacturers offer their own financing plans.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can finance the system directly through the manufacturer?
Yeah. And those can be pretty enticing. But like with anything, it's important to compare those offers to other financing options,
Right.
like loans or credit cards, to make sure you're getting the best deal.
Okay, so shop around, compare rates and terms, and make sure you understand all the details before you commit to anything.
Exactly.
All right, so we've talked about loans, credit cards, and manufacturer financing. Are there any other financing options out there?
Well, he doesn't really mention any other specific options in the article, but I think it's always worth checking with your local utility company or energy efficiency organizations.
Okay.
They might have programs or incentives that can help with financing.
That's a good tip. It never hurts to ask.
Right. Now, I know our expert contractor included a whole section in his guide on FAQs, frequently asked questions.
Okay, FAQs. Those are always helpful.
Yeah, and I think they address a lot of common questions and concerns that people have about replacing their HVAC systems.
Right, it's like he's anticipating the questions that people might have.
Exactly. So let's dive into some of those FAQs because I think they're really valuable.
Sounds good. I'm ready for some Q&A.
Okay, first question. And this is one that I know I've definitely wondered about myself.
Okay, hit me with it.
How long does it actually take to replace an HVAC system?
Ah, that's a good question. I've always wondered about that too. Is it like a day, a week, a month? How long does this whole process take?
Well, I'm happy to report that it's usually not a super lengthy process.
Okay, good.
Our expert says that a typical HVAC replacement can take anywhere from 1 to 3 days.
1 to 3 days. Okay, that's manageable.
Yeah. But of course, that timeline can vary depending on the complexity of the installation.
Right, that makes sense. Some installations are going to be more complicated than others. So what factors could make that timeline longer?
Well, the size of the system, for one.
Right, a bigger system is going to take longer to install.
Yeah. And if you need those ductwork modifications, that can also add time to the project.
Right, the ductwork, that can be a big job.
And then, of course, there's always the possibility of unexpected issues popping up during the process.
Oh, yeah. There are always surprises when you're doing any kind of home renovation, so it's always good to have a little buffer built into the schedule.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, next question. And I bet this is one that everybody wants to know the answer to.
Okay, what is it?
Are there any hidden costs?
Ah, hidden costs. Nobody likes those. Those can be a real pain. Are there any hidden costs that we should be aware of when it comes to HVAC replacements?
Well, unfortunately, they can sometimes pop up. It's just the nature of home improvement projects.
Right. So what are some of those potential hidden costs?
Well, you want to be prepared for potential costs like ductwork modifications,
Right, we talked about those.
permits,
Okay.
and disposal fees for the old system.
Permits and disposal fees. Okay, so those are things that people might not think about right away.
Right, but they can add up. So it's important to have those open and honest conversations with your contractor up front.
Right, so there are no surprises later on. Transparency is key.
Exactly. Okay, here's another question that I'm sure a lot of people have.
Okay, what is it?
How can I estimate the size of the unit that I need?
Ah, that's a good question. I mean, how do you know what size system is going to be right for your home? Is it just based on square footage?
Well, it's a little more complex than that. There's actually a specialized calculation that HVAC professionals use.
Oh, really?
It's called a manual J-load calculation.
Manual J-load calculation.
Yeah.
Okay, what's that all about?
Well, this calculation takes into account a bunch of different factors like your home square footage,
Okay.
the level of insulation you have, window efficiency.
Right, so how well your windows are insulated.
Yeah. And even your local climate zone.
Wow, so it's pretty comprehensive. It takes a lot of different factors into account.
Yeah. And it's all about finding that sweet spot, a system that's not too big, not too small,
Okay.
but just right for your home.
Right, the Goldilocks zone. We talked about that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of the matter, the actual cost.
Okay, the cost.
Yeah. The article mentions that the average cost to replace an HVAC system in Northern California is between $5,000 and $10,000. But it also stresses that this is just a starting point.
Right.
So what's the key takeaway here for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that this average range is just a broad estimate. The actual cost for your specific HVAC replacement is going to depend on all those factors that we talked about earlier.
Right, the type of system, the size, the efficiency, the installation complexity, any additional components or upgrades, it's all going to factor into the final price.
Exactly. So don't freak out when you see those big numbers.
Right.
It's all about getting a personalized quote that reflects your individual needs and circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like getting a custom tailored suit. It's going to fit you perfectly.
I love that analogy.
Okay.
Okay, another question that often causes confusion. Do I need to replace my ductwork when I replace my HVAC system?
Ah, the ductwork. That's a big question. Do you always have to replace the ductwork when you get a new system?
Well, the good news is that you don't always have to replace it.
Okay, that's good to hear.
If your existing ductwork is in good shape, if it's properly sized,
Okay.
and if it's well sealed, you might be able to keep it.
Okay.
But if it's old, if it's damaged, or if it's improperly sized,
Yeah.
then replacing it could actually make your new system a lot more efficient.
Ah, okay. So it's about making sure everything's working together properly.
Right. It's like a well-oiled machine. You want
Yeah.
all the parts to be working together harmoniously.
I like that analogy. Okay, so you might not have to replace your ductwork, but it's something to consider. Now, here's a question that I have always wondered about.
Okay, what is it?
Can you replace just the outdoor unit without replacing the indoor unit?
Ah, that's a good question. Is that even possible?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, it's technically possible,
Okay.
but our expert advises against it.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Well, he says that HVAC systems are designed to work as a matched pair.
A matched pair. Oh,
So think of it like trying to pair mismatched shoes.
mismatched shoes. Okay, I get it. It might work for a little while,
Yeah,
but it's not going to be comfortable or efficient in the long run.
exactly. And it's the same with your HVAC system. Replacing both the indoor and outdoor units together is usually going to give you the best results.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's better to replace both units at the same time. All right, let's talk about saving money again.
All right, saving money.
Yeah, who doesn't love saving money? The article mentions tax credits and rebates for energy-efficient HVAC systems. Can you tell me more about those?
Yeah, so the federal government, as well as many state and local governments, offer these incentives
Good.
to encourage homeowners to make energy-efficient choices.
So it's like they're rewarding you for being a responsible citizen.
Yeah, exactly. And these incentives can actually help reduce the upfront cost of those high-efficiency systems.
Okay, so it makes those systems more affordable and accessible. That's great. But how do you find out about these incentives? I mean, where do you go to get this information?
Well, that's where the research comes in. You can check with your local utility company,
Okay.
your state energy office,
Right.
or even the federal government's Energy Star website.
Energy Star website. Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah. They have a lot of great information about energy efficiency and available incentives.
Okay, so research is key. Got it.
Okay, now let's talk about choosing the right HVC contractor. We touched on this a little bit earlier.
Right. We talked about getting multiple quotes.
Right. But can you give our listeners a quick checklist of key things to look for when choosing a contractor.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I mean, there are so many contractors out there. How do you know which one to choose?
Well, first of all, you want to make sure they're licensed and insured.
Licensed and insured. Okay, that's important. You want to make sure they're legitimate and that you're protected in case something goes wrong. Okay, so licensed and insured. What else?
Then you want to look for experience and expertise. You want someone who knows what they're doing and has a proven track record of success.
Right, you don't want to hire someone who's going to mess up your system.
Yeah, for sure. And it's always a good idea to check those online reviews, see what other customers are saying about their experiences with the contractor.
Online reviews, yeah, those can be really helpful. It's like getting a glimpse into their work ethic and professionalism.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for references from past clients. Talking to someone who has actually worked with the contractor can give you some really valuable insights.
Right, it's like getting a personal recommendation.
Yeah. And when you're getting quotes, make sure you get detailed quotes from at least 3 different contractors.
Okay, 3 different contractors.
And these quotes should outline everything.
Okay, so what should be included in the quote?
Well, the scope of the work,
Okay.
the materials they're going to use, labor costs, any potential extra expenses, and the warranties they offer.
So it's all about transparency. The more information you have, the better.
Exactly.
Okay, so licensed, insured, experienced, good reviews, references, detailed quotes. Anything else?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of communication and professionalism.
Mhm.
Pay attention to how the contractor interacts with you.
Okay.
Do they answer your questions clearly? Do they listen to your concerns? Do they treat you with respect?
Right.
It's really important to find someone that you trust and feel comfortable working with. Because after all, they're going to be in your home working on a major system.
That's a good point. You want to make sure you have a good rapport with the contractor.
Right. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but before we move on, I just want to quickly recap those key things to look for when choosing a contractor.
Okay, sounds good. A recap is always helpful.
So we want to make sure they're licensed and insured.
Okay.
They have experience and expertise.
Right.
They have good online reviews and references. They provide detailed quotes.
Right.
And they communicate clearly and professionally.
Got it. So those are the things to keep in mind when choosing an HVAC contractor. Sounds good. Now, let's move on. What else do we need to talk about?
Well, he actually offers some advice on preparing for the installation itself. A little bit of planning ahead can go a long way.
Okay, that makes sense. So what are his top tips for preparing for the installation?
Well, first of all, clear the installation area. Make sure there's plenty of space for the contractors to work safely and efficiently.
Right, you don't want them tripping over furniture or anything like that.
Exactly. And second, communicate any specific requirements or preferences that you have. Like, where do you want the thermostat placed?
Okay.
Or are there any areas of your home that are off limits?
Right, so they know where they can and can't go. Good communication is key.
Right. And then third, plan for someone to be home during the installation to answer any questions that the contractors might have and just kind of keep an eye on things.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then finally, be prepared for some disruptions.
Disruptions, like what?
Well, there's going to be some noise. There might be some dust. You might experience some temporary changes in temperature.
Right, so it might be a little inconvenient for a few days.
Yeah, but it's all temporary. And it's worth it in the end to have a new, efficient HVAC system.
Okay, so those are his top tips for preparing for the installation. Clear the area, communicate your needs, plan for someone to be home, and be prepared for some disruptions. Got it.
Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored the reasons for replacing your system, broken down the costs, looked at different types of systems, and even talked about some money-saving tips and how to prepare for the installation.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But now I want to kind of shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about some of the bigger picture questions that go beyond just the nuts and bolts of the HVAC system itself.
Okay, interesting. What kind of questions are you thinking about?
Well, things like the impact of a new system on your home's value,
Okay.
the importance of indoor air quality, and the future of HVAC technology. What are some of those exciting new innovations that are coming down the pipeline?
Those are all great questions. I'm excited to dive into those.
All right, let's start with that age-old question. Will a new HVAC system increase the value of my home?
That's a good question. I mean, it makes sense that it would, but does it actually?
Well, according to our expert, the short answer is yes.
Okay, so a new HVAC system can increase your home's value.
Yes. And there are a few reasons for that.
Okay, I'm curious to hear why.
Well, first of all, newer systems are much more energy efficient than older models, and that translates to lower energy bills for the homeowner, which is a major selling point for potential buyers.
Right, that makes sense. Everybody's looking for ways to save money on their energy bills these days.
Exactly. And then there's the comfort factor.
Right, comfort. That's important too.
A new system means consistent, reliable heating and cooling. So you're creating that comfortable living environment that everyone wants.
Yeah, you want your home to be a place where you can relax and feel comfortable. It's like a sanctuary.
Exactly.
Okay, so energy efficiency and comfort. What else?
Well, a new system also updates the overall feel of your home.
Okay, so it's like a mini facelift for your house.
Yeah, I like that. A mini facelift. And then finally, a new system comes with a warranty,
Ah, the warranty.
which provides peace of mind and protection for your investment.
Right, that's important. You want to know that you're covered if something goes wrong.
Right. So it's not just about immediate comfort and potential cost savings. It's also a smart financial move that can pay off down the road if you decide to sell your home.
Okay, so it's a good investment all around. I like it.
All right, let's move on to another important topic, indoor air quality.
Indoor air quality. Yes. That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's so important to have clean air in your home.
Absolutely. We spend so much time indoors. So creating a healthy and comfortable indoor environment is crucial.
Yeah, for sure. But what role does our HVAC system play in all of this?
Well, our HVAC systems are kind of like the lungs of our homes. They circulate the air,
Okay.
and they help filter out dust, allergens, and other pollutants.
Right, so they're essential for maintaining good indoor air quality.
Exactly. But here's the thing. If your system isn't properly maintained, or if you have any underlying air quality issues in your home,
Yeah.
your HVAC system can actually make those problems worse.
Okay, so it can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's like anything else.
Yeah.
If you don't take care of it, it can backfire on you.
Right, that makes sense. So what can we do to make sure our HVAC system is helping our indoor air quality, not hurting it?
Well, first and foremost, regular HVAC maintenance. I know we sound like a broken record at this point.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, but it's clearly important.
It really is the key to so many things.
Okay, so regular maintenance. What else?
Well, make sure you're changing those air filters regularly.
Right, the air.
And during your annual maintenance visits, you can ask your contractor to clean the coils, the blower motor, and other components that can collect dust and debris over time.
Okay, so those are things that a professional can do during a maintenance visit. What about things that we can do ourselves to improve indoor air quality?
Well, you can consider investing in a standalone air purifier.
Oh, an air purifier. Yeah, I've heard those can be really helpful. They're like an extra layer of protection for your lungs.
Yeah, exactly. They use different technologies to remove pollutants from the air that your regular HVAC system might miss.
Okay, that's good to know. So an air purifier. What else?
And don't forget about humidity control.
Humidity control, right. Because too much humidity can lead to mold and mildew growth.
Yeah,
And that's definitely not good for your indoor air quality.
definitely not. So a dehumidifier can be your best friend, especially if you live in a humid climate.
Okay, a dehumidifier. And what about simple things like opening windows and doors to let in fresh air?
That's actually a great tip. Fresh air circulation can really help dilute indoor pollutants and just generally improve the air quality in your home.
Right, it's like giving your house a breath of fresh air.
Exactly. Okay, here's a big one, and I think we can all agree on this.
Okay, what is it?
Avoid smoking indoors.
Yeah, definitely. Smoking indoors is a huge no-no for indoor air quality.
Right. It releases all those harmful chemicals and particulate matter into the air, which is not good for anyone's health.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about maintenance, air purifiers, humidity control, ventilation, and avoiding smoking. Any other tips for improving indoor air quality?
Well, be mindful of the products that you're bringing into your home.
Products, like what?
Things like paint,
Okay.
cleaning supplies,
Right.
even furniture.
Okay, so what should we be looking for in those products?
Well, a lot of these products release volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, into the air.
EOCs, okay.
Right.
And those are bad for your health, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they can be. They can contribute to a range of health problems, from headaches to respiratory issues.
So how can we avoid those VOCs?
Well, you can choose low VOC or VOC-free products whenever possible.
Low VOC or VOC-free products. Okay, so that's something to look for when we're shopping for those types of products.
Exactly. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference for your indoor air quality.
All right, so it's all about being aware of those hidden sources of indoor air pollution and making conscious choices to create a healthier environment. I like it.
Now, let's talk about something that's often shrouded in mystery.
Oh, mystery.
Ductwork.
Ductwork, right, those mysterious metal tubes that run through our walls and ceilings.
Exactly. It's the hidden network that distributes air throughout your home.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
But it can also be a source of problems if it's not properly installed or maintained.
Okay, so what are some of the key things that our listeners should know about ductwork?
Well, first and foremost, ductwork needs to be properly sized for your HVAC system.
Sized properly?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that important?
Well, it's like making sure you have the right size pipes for your plumbing.
Okay.
If the pipes are too small, you get restrictions and the water can't flow properly.
Mhm.
And if the pipes are too big,
Yeah.
you get inefficiencies because the water pressure is too low.
Ah, okay. So it's about finding that Goldilocks zone again.
Exactly. And the same goes for ductwork. If it's not properly sized, your system's not going to work as efficiently as it could.
Okay, so sizing is important. What else?
Sealing and insulation are super important too.
Sealing and insulation. Okay, why is that?
Well, leaky ducts can be a major energy waster. All that conditioned air that you're paying to heat or cool can just escape through those gaps and cracks in your ductwork.
Oh, I see. So it's like throwing money away, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So make sure your ductwork is well sealed and insulated to prevent those energy leaks.
Okay, so sealing and insulation. Got it. What about cleaning? I know duct cleaning is a thing, but is it really necessary? I mean, it seems kind of like one of those things that you could probably skip, right?
Well, I think it depends. Over time, dust, debris, and allergens can build up in your ductwork.
Ah, okay. So it can affect your indoor air quality.
Exactly. And it can also restrict airflow, which makes your system work harder and less efficiently. Think of it like cleaning the ventilation system in your dryer.
Okay.
You want those airways clear and unobstructed.
Right, so the air can flow freely.
Exactly.
Oh,
So if it's been a while since you've had your ductwork cleaned, it's probably a good idea to have a professional come in and take a look.
okay. So it's not something you need to do every year, but it's worth considering every few years.
Yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb.
Okay, so we've talked about sizing, sealing, insulation, and cleaning. What else do we need to know about ductwork?
Well, the most important thing to remember is that you should always leave ductwork installation and repairs to qualified professionals.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, improper installation can lead to all sorts of problems like
Huh.
leaks, reduced efficiency, and even safety hazards. So if you notice any problems with your ductwork, like leaks, poor airflow, or strange noises, call in a reputable HVAC contractor to get it checked out.
Right, it's not something to mess around with yourself. Leave it to the experts. Okay, so ductwork is important. Got it. Now let's talk about something more fun. Smart home integration.
All right, smart home integration. I love this stuff. We've already talked about smart thermostats, which are awesome.
Yeah, those are great for saving energy and money.
But what other ways can our HVAC systems integrate with our smart homes to make our lives easier and more efficient?
Oh, there are so many cool possibilities these days. For starters, a lot of smart thermostats and HVAC systems now offer voice control.
Voice control, that's so futuristic. I can just imagine talking to my thermostat and telling it what to do.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You can just say something like, "Hey Google, set the living room temperature to 72 degrees," and it'll just do it.
That's amazing.
And there's remote access and control.
Oh yeah, that's super convenient.
You can adjust your thermostat, monitor your energy usage, even get alerts all from your smartphone or tablet, no matter where you are in the world.
It's like having your home's climate at your fingertips.
Exactly. And it gets even better. HVAC systems can now integrate with other smart home devices like motion sensors, door sensors, and window sensors.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, let's say you walk into a room and the motion sensor detects your presence. The HVAC system can then automatically adjust the temperature in that room to your preferred setting.
Wow, that's so cool.
Or let's say a window is left open. The window sensor can trigger the HVAC system to automatically turn off the heating or cooling in that room to prevent energy waste.
It's like your home is anticipating your needs.
Exactly. And the data analysis capabilities are pretty mind-blowing too. Smart HVAC systems can track your energy usage patterns and provide you with valuable insights into your home's energy consumption.
So it's like having a personal energy consultant.
Pretty much. And with personalized comfort settings, you can create custom profiles for different members of your household.
Oh, that's interesting. So each person can have their own ideal temperature settings saved.
Exactly. And those settings can automatically adjust as they move throughout the house.
It's like having a personalized climate bubble.
Yeah, I love that. A personalized climate bubble. So, the future of HVAC is all about making our homes smarter, more efficient, and more responsive to our individual needs.
This is seriously cool stuff. Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we've talked about throughout this entire deep dive, choosing the right HVAC contractor. It's such a crucial decision, and it can feel overwhelming with all the options out there. So to recap, can you give our listeners a quick checklist of key things to look for when making this decision?
Absolutely. So, first and foremost, check those credentials, make sure the contractor is properly licensed and insured to operate in your area.
Right. Safety first.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're protected. What else?
Experience and expertise are key. Look for a contractor who has a proven track record of installing the type of system you're considering.
So don't be shy about asking about their experience and qualifications.
Exactly. And check those online reviews, see what other homeowners are saying about their experiences with the contractor.
Online reviews can be so helpful. It's like getting a sneak peek behind the curtain. What about references?
Absolutely. Don't hesitate to ask for references from past clients. Speaking with someone who has firsthand experience with the contractor can give you valuable insights into their work ethic, communication style, and overall professionalism.
It's like getting a personal recommendation. What about the quote itself? What should we be looking for there?
Always get detailed quotes from at least 3 different contractors. These quotes should clearly outline the scope of work, the materials they'll be using, the labor costs, any potential extra expenses, and the warranties they offer.
Transparency is key. The more information you have, the better equipped you'll be to make an informed decision.
Exactly. And pay attention to how the contractor communicates with you. Do they answer your questions clearly and thoroughly? Do they listen to your concerns and address them respectfully? Do you feel like you can trust them and have a good rapport with them?
It's all about finding someone you feel comfortable working with. After all, they'll be in your home working on a major system.
Right. And if you're interested in exploring eco-friendly options, make sure the contractor has expertise in energy-efficient systems and is knowledgeable about the rebates and incentives available in your area.
So we're looking for a contractor who is experienced, reputable, communicative, transparent, and knowledgeable about energy efficiency. That's quite a list.
It is. But trust me, finding the right contractor is worth the effort. It can make the entire HVAC replacement process so much smoother and less stressful.
Okay, one last topic before we wrap up air filtration. We've talked about changing air filters regularly, but can you tell us a bit more about the different types of filters that are out there and the benefits of each one?
Absolutely. Air filters are like the unsung heroes of your HVAC system, working tirelessly to protect your indoor air quality and keep your system running efficiently.
I love that, the unsung heroes. So tell us about these different air filter superheroes.
Okay, so let's start with the most basic type fiberglass filters. These are the most affordable filters, but they really only capture those larger particles like dust and lint. They're not as effective at removing smaller particles like allergens, bacteria, or viruses.
So they're like the entry-level superheroes. What about those pleated filters? I know those are pretty popular.
Pleated filters are a step up from fiberglass filters. They have more surface area, which means they can trap a wider range of particles, including some allergens and mold spores.
So they've got some extra superpowers. What about those HEPA filters I've heard so much about? Are they really as amazing as everyone says?
HEPA filters are like the elite forces of air filtration. They can capture up to 99.97% of particles that are zero point 0.3 microns or larger, which means they can remove those tiny particles that other filters miss, including allergens, bacteria, and even viruses.
Wow, that's impressive.
They really are. And then there are electrostatic filters. These filters use static electricity to attract and trap particles, kind of like a magnet.
So they're like magnets for dust and allergens.
Exactly. And finally, we have activated carbon filters. These filters are the odor eliminators. They're really good at removing unpleasant smells, gases, and chemicals from the air.
So we've got fiberglass filters, pleated filters, HEPA filters, electrostatic filters, and activated carbon filters. That's a whole league of air filtration superheroes.
It is. And choosing the right filter for your needs really depends on your budget, the level of air quality you want, and any specific allergies or respiratory concerns you may have.
So it's all about finding the right superhero for your home.
Exactly.
Wow. We've covered so much ground in this HVAC deep dive. From understanding how these systems work to exploring the latest technologies and eco-friendly options, I feel like we've given our listeners a comprehensive crash course in all things HVAC.
I agree. We've really gone in depth today.
So as we wrap up, What are some key takeaways that you hope our listeners will remember from this deep dive?
Well, first and foremost, knowledge is power. The more you understand about your HVAC system, the better equipped you'll be to make those informed decisions about maintenance, upgrades, and eventually replacement.
And never underestimate the power of regular maintenance. It's the absolute best way to prevent problems, extend the life of your system, and keep those energy bills in check.
Absolutely. And embrace innovation. The HVAC industry is constantly evolving, so stay curious and explore those new technologies that can enhance your comfort, convenience, and energy savings.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. Your HVAC contractor is a valuable resource, so reach out to them for expert advice and guidance. Remember, they're the experts.
Exactly. We've covered a lot of information today, but this is just the beginning of your HVAC journey.
So do your research, explore your options, and make choices that align with your needs, your budget, and your vision for a comfortable, healthy, and sustainable home.
And if you ever feel overwhelmed, remember that we're here to help. The Deep Dive team is always ready to tackle a new challenge and empower you with the knowledge you need.
Thanks for joining us on this HVAC adventure, everyone. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay comfortable.
And may your HVAC system always keep you in the comfort zone, no matter what the weather throws your way.